Heyo guys, welcome to a brand new video. I'm going to be talking about something I want. A how to train your dragon. And how if I were to make them the newest movie, the animation one, what I would do if I was the director. Now, for the first part of this animation, at the beginning, it would show Toothless and his other Astrid and two kids. The two kids he had, and, has, right? And the, oh, sorry. So Hiccup wakes up inside of an icebox. He pushes it, and it opens. He's in a strange lab. Unfamiliar tech around him. Yeah, one sec. Hey, I'm back, guys. Sorry, I had to turn on something. Anyway, so, like I said, Hiccup wakes up in an unfamiliar lab. Strange. It's strange noises. Wires ripped apart. And then he sees Toothless and the Light Fury. He calms him down, Toothless recognizes him, and he becomes a goofy son of a gun. Now, Toothless is also, don't worry, Mom said no. If you want to watch this entire video, you can. Let me just, yeah. Anyway, Mom said no was, not Mom said, sorry. Hiccup was confused, and then he sees, and he goes up, and he realizes he was in a strange place. Actually, no, okay, I'm gonna redo it, sorry. I have 8 hours, so if I need to, I can re-record. Hiccup wakes up in a strange place. He opens his eyes, and he's in an icebox. He pushes out, and it cracks and falls. He walks around, nervous, but okay. One day he's walking around when he hears noises. He comes out and sees a cave. Toothless is there with the other dragons. I'll explain to you later. Hiccup forgot what happened. And then he sees the others inside the cave. They run to him and hug him and say, "Hey, welcome back." They explain that Hiccup decided to seal the dragons inside of the hidden world in the third movie. After they did that, they had to seal the others. So they decided to use a special new species of dragon that they found inside of the hidden world to freeze the others. Now, there's enough food inside of the hidden world to last 4 millennia. So, they weren't worried about the food and them dying. They used the dragon to seal it, because you see, this dragon had a special ability to freeze the body to a point of non-death. And, the others decide to say, "Hey, let's do that, because it'd be a great idea." Hiccup finally remembers to where every other, they use another dragon that removes their memories. It's because there were too many dragon hunters, so they decided to send out an entire gas once all dragons were sealed. Because in the third movie, if you didn't know, please go watch it, but spoiler, Toothless becomes the Dragon King, so they just made a horn that screams so loud, every dragon could hear it, and no dragon hunters could, or evil villains, could use them anymore. Put them inside the hidden world, took off the collars, and left. Spreading the gas, one dragon, Hiccup. Basically, the others had special masks that they wore, allowing them to breathe without having to forget their dragons. because they were the Dragon Riders. They had the exception. So after they removed the entirety, every single island, and there were like a ton of these dragons, so they just used it to forget everything inside of, well, yeah, everything inside. Then whenever, you know, as soon as they sealed them, they sealed the other dragons inside using tons of Gronkle iron, which mixed with dragon-proof iron, which by the way is impenetrable in this story because and then couple 100,000 years go by, and it's now the 21st century. There's a war going on because they found it, but they can't get it open, thinking it holds some ancient knowledge or weapons. And it does, but they need to get to it. The problem is their dragons, when they were sealed, they were damaged, so they have to heal for a couple of years. Well, and it's gonna take them decades, so they have around 12 years. Well, 6 months to prepare for the flying, because the others can fly, but only for a short time before they start passing out. So the other dragons start doing the flying 2 months later, because that Chronicle Iron plus Dragon Proof, because the Dragon Proof is so strong it breaks bullets. Like, it'll just shatter them, even bombs, because they can't go around it because the outer side of it is so dense and thick. It reaches a layer similar to it's a similar layer to something that makes it to where they physically can't get outside. So this is how, they can actually stop them. So they have around 12 years. Then the movie will play clips of 12 years of the different things. 12 years of things. So the first year is them getting used to it. They basically get on a boat and go. There was enough technology, because you see, there's a specific people that they started spreading that to only their family, saying, as a way to stop it, if they were to tell anybody about the secret, an entire war would start with only them left. Obviously it worked. There were a couple scientists whose parents were one of the original Burke people, specifically his mother. They also sealed her in her dragon. Her dragon, though, her dragon's wings are fine. When the others got out, they had to there was a ton of frostbite. But the dragons, since they had the scales, it just made it to where they couldn't fly for like 2 months. And they still had that original dragon that froze them, because it can't be frozen inside of its own. And also, it's immortal because it has its own regeneration. Sorry, I'm getting off topic. Anyway, so after Hiccup and the others spend their first year in the normal world in 21st century, there are 4 wars going around called World War III. Basically, they're trying to take that land, but there's a special thing. They made a defense. The Gronkle Iron also spreads to the inside of the cave, plus Dragon Hunter stuff, so they can't get through. Because the outer layer is that, and the Gronkle Iron, they could break it. They did find a piece and shoot it, but they need a actual bomb. A bomb big enough to blow up 4 countries just to crack it. That's how strong these irons are. Now, Dragon Hunter, they're not as strong against older weapons because they're not using projectile and smaller ones. Straight up, you could hit that thing with a giant hammer and it would shatter. So that's why the originally, most of it would, in the original movies, they they could break it. I mean, I think they could. But the Gronkle iron in the 21st century, and plus the dragon one, the dragon hunter iron, is just impossible. So the inside is also mixed with that. Well, behind the ice. Because there's a really thick layer of a Gronkle iron ice. They use a lot of Gronkle iron. Anyway, so after Hiccup and the others finally are able to fly, they have to be sneaky. So what they do is they use one person. You see, one of the scientists made a custom thing, a invisibility, causing them to where they can talk between each other, because it creates a field that you need the exact thing for. Like, you can't just guess other numbers and then you can get the entire thing and do that. You know, you need to do it on the first try, which it does every time. It's to protect them, so they fly through the sky. But they keep all the skills that the dragon has from other dragons is put onto them as armor, because it also allows camouflage. They just use toothlesses because it also adds a cover of darkness. Anyway, so, and I want this movie to be long because I think it'd just be funny. So, the others fly on their dragons and they start looking. Hiccup and the others. Astrid, fish legs, stays behind because his dragon, their small wings were shattered. Yeah, since he had such small wings, when they broke out, because they broke out much earlier than the others, they were not the best with it, but this is year 2. Now they are on to the phase 2 of the plan. Getting to it. So, the scientists were able to find a special dragon and find a cave of them under the cave in a little creek. There's a small little window that humans can fit through, but not an entire army. Only like a couple humans can fit through before it like actually starts to fall apart. And successfully, they get in. And they see a bunch of the thunder things. It's a way to keep them safe because, remember, they can burn off the skin of a human. They test it. It can melt Gronkle iron. Now, this is only a mix of with dragon proof. Because it's just really hot water. Not fire. It's just really hot water, so like boiling hot water. So it can break through. Now it can't melt it, but it can break a hole into it. They tested on almost all the metals that the 21st century people use for the military. It can break through them. So, one day, they're walking around when they see a military coast guard coming towards. Because they see the lab, and they get scared. So they huddle all the dragons into a special cave that you need a special code for. But since because this is America, they're their own independent. Like, basically, there was a law that basically allowed for people that if they had something that they created, the U.S. could not take it. No country could take it. And everyone respects that. But if you did it on U.S. soil, and it was an island that they technically owned, then yes, definitely, they could take it. But since they're in the middle of the ocean in the Arctic winters, they go over and ask. So they walk down, see it's kind of broken, see the boxes. They say they were doing tests with hyperfreezing. Another word for just freezing somebody in time, basically, just freezing them. And yeah. They believe, but then they see the metal door. They try and open it, but it can't. They say, open the door. The others say you can't because of the law that was in place. They say, okay, whatever. They leave. Now they leave suspicious, but say fuck it. They don't even care. So then they're walking around. They try and open the door, but they say just open the damn door. They run at it with a bomb, which doesn't work. And they say, what type of iron? What type of metal is this? Okay. Just say some very, very blast resistant, and the entire wall, the entire thing is covered in it. Which it is. Except the underground part, which they don't know about. Then they see it, and they say, what's that? They say, oh, it's just a weird cave that they never entered. They ask if they could go, and they say, no, it's just a dumb cave. They say no. They ask why. They say, cause it's a cave that literally leads to nowhere. They say they use the drone that's small enough to fit with a good enough quality to actually see stuff. And, they get really mad and say just open the damn door. But they don't. So they decide to pull out their guns. But then, the general, because that wasn't the actual general. That was a sergeant, not a general. General yells, they said no, so they said no. The general, the sergeant gets really mad saying, well, they're hiding something. They said that law was in place, so we don't fuck up anything. So, when that law was in place, it's in place, and it's still going to be there in the future for that. Now, after the thinking of something else. After Hiccup and the others sigh of relief, the general says they apologize and they actually send funding. You see, they've been doing this for free, so it's kind of expensive. They send a $4 billion funding as an apology. But it's not because but they're scared that they're going to sue, because they added with the clause, since the sergeant tried to break it, technically the scientists, and Hiccup and the others, and the scientists, who, by the way, were from the original Burke family. Literally, they changed their name to the Burkians. Lassen Birkin. Lassen Burkian. And, there's a couple people. Now, in this, there were a couple other laws that were passed. Number one, a certain company tried to buy an island. The island that they were standing on. But they said, the U.S. tried to ask if they could buy it and all those stuff on it. Obviously, they said no. The U.S. said okay. But the sergeant was saying there's something suspicious going on there. So he goes over, guns blazing, tries to open the door, can't. Launches a fucking bomb at it. RPG, nothing. Then, he gets really fucking mad. So he yells, says execute. But then the general appears. Turns out they snitched. They knew. So he's fired. He's put on, he's not fired, but put on a different duty. Toilet cleaner. Which in the army very much sucks. In this world. Because one thing, they do not get cleaned off. The last time the person cleaned the bathroom, they threw it for 3 hours. That's how bad they get. So the sergeant is stuck cleaning the toilets, even though he should make his others do it. He thinks he should be the president. He should not, obviously. So one day, they're finishing when the general arrives, asks. Turns out he is a Berkey. He didn't know what was going on here about the stories, but he always thought they were stories. He showed them, and he was so adorable. Oh, his heart was melting when he saw Toothless. He literally was. His heart was melting. And the general and the others were actually Birkins. You see, there was a line. Every time there was a new generation, when they were old enough, they told the story. And that story passed down for so long that the general decided to find it. He found Hiccup, who, by the way, before they made it to where there was a war with large, with dragons. How do you think dragons appeared in culture? They started spreading it to make it look like it was just a story. They sent it to China, which, by the way, they found out that there were more than, you know, I don't know where Berg takes place, like what country it would take place in. But anyway, so they have, but then the sergeant says fuck it and shoots and appears and shoots the general. He sees the dragons and tries to touch one, but it stabs him in the hand, specifically the deadly anner. He screams in pain and yells, "They're monsters and beasts who should be controlled." Toothless says, "Fuck that." Now, Toothless straight up whips him in the tail, and then Monstrous Nightmare picks him up, doesn't bite him, picks him up and throws him into a wall. They throw him out, knock him out, use the same thing, because also the memory thing couldn't be because it created too much heat, so they just put it in another cave below the island. They went to Burke Island, picked it up, and wiped the sergeant's memories of the dragons, but nothing else. Because if he wiped, that would just be concerning. Because then he was like, "Oh, where were you?" Didn't want to be and then, the general was okay. They used a healing technique from Burke, and it was very effective. Now, this gets to the part of now it gets to the low part. You see, Fish Legs has lost a lot of weight, but that's because he hasn't been eating as much. The scientist says it's normal because he is eating. He's just eating healthier because before they actually had to eat like that. Because if they didn't, they could get jumped. But now that he doesn't have to bulk, because he is actually very strong. He could pick up a Gronkle, and they are really heavy. And he could pick them up, not like super easily. It would take some time, but he could just throw it pretty far. After all that was revealed, God damn it, you probably won't be able to hear me. I'm hoping you could. After everything, he walks over to a special little place. Now, they have to do stuff, and they decided they have to do some extravagant things. So, they decide to actually go to the mainland. Now, they've only been there a couple times, but they know the scientists are from that. So, they just said, keep your head down and just ignore everybody. But, you see, these Vikings were different. You see, they developed an eyesight. In Burkians, that's what I'm calling them. Hiccup and the others developed an eyesight thing, meaning they could see more clearly because they didn't need glasses. Fish Legs did, believe it or not. He needed them for a long time. That's why he was terrible at flying. But they fixed his Grunkle can't fly, but they were able to get another one, and it wasn't a replacement. It was a replacement. You see, that one had wings, but it couldn't fly. It could never fly, physically. So, it asked and did a transplant that worked. They connected the nerves and everything to the wings. It had much bigger ones, so it could fly even better. So, after Fish Legs finished that and the scientist, they decided to do another experiment with Toothless using plasma. So they decided to make a machine that would collect this plasma. So he launched a full power attack. Checked it. It was enough volts to stop a man's heart 4 times over. Now they wouldn't say this, but it was enough to make a man's heart stop 4 times over. which I would say they just say it would make a man's heart stop. Now, whenever a hiccup, they finally go to the mainland. I want this movie to be like 4 hours long for story purposes, but I want them to release it on streaming and theaters, but make it cheaper on theaters to where people have to buy it, but they can go to theaters and it's much cheaper. Now, after all that, they finally go to the mainland, and they're actually kind of getting through. They're using a special bomb similar to the atomic bomb from Hiroshima, but just a little much smaller. So after that, they fight the sergeant. He took the one, and it can also control memories, and so he made it look like made it to where dragons existed. Everyone knew this. So he released Toothless Rard, and every single. Now, the other dragons could actually break through the Grunkle Iron because they're just that. Because they're built different. Hundreds of thousands of dragons fly out. The military starts shooting. They keep missing, though, because they just spread. But then, the ones, those really small ones from the show? Like the really small ones, like the the large amount of black ones, and the one white one that could make it look like they were doing that, but much bigger. They started shooting fire and every other time. They basically had it to where they had every single gas one shoot out the gas. And by the way, this gas became just very sickening to others. And then they fight the sergeant. I'm just doing this quick because it's been like 27 minutes. They fight the sergeant, and then finally defeat. Then dragons exist. This would be separate from the other universes, and this would be the actual true story of it, not the other shows. Just this one. This is the real one. This is true story. Now, thank you so much, and I mean so much for watching. I hope you really enjoyed. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and I hope to see you soon. Peace. Bye.